Welcome, everyone. My name is Dayana Mayfield, and I'm the head of content at Design Files. I'm back with another live event. Every month, we love to feature the people of Design Files, pro interior designers, and experts in running a design or creative business. We discuss the current challenges you're facing and no BS lessons to help you streamline and grow your business. Today, we have a special guest who's going to walk us through her 5-step process to building your brand. Coleen Otero is the founder of CEO Chicks, which offers online courses, group coaching, live events, and branding and marketing services. Coleen uses her 20 plus years of experience in the beauty and branding industries to coach her clients to live their best lives. And her book, Brand to Bucks, details her signature branding process, which we're going to dive into today. Welcome, Coleen.
Hey, super excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
So excited you're here. So we're really excited to hop into, your process for branding. But before we do that, I have to bring up the fact that I saw that you're going to be on this season of Below Deck on your Instagram. I am a big fan of Below Deck. If you guys haven't watched it, it's like yachting reality TV where it follows the shenanigans of the crew and the charter guests. So Coleen, tell us, what was it like trying to live your best life and enjoy being on a yacht while filming a reality TV show? That sounds like a lot.
It is. It's going to air the 20th, the 27th. I'm blogging about it, looking at old clips I couldn't share during the process, but it was a lot of fun. And you don't really get to see all that happens, of course, behind the scenes with the crew, but I'm looking forward to seeing, just their response.
Exactly. Like, what are they saying? Because, they're chit-chatting in the background there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it was an awesome experience. It was beautiful.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to watch your episode. So guys, we are going to dive right into it. And Coleen, I'm going to let you take it away, and we will have time for Q&A at the end. So feel free to pop in your questions as you think of them. All right, guys?
Awesome. All right, let's get into it. Ladies at Design Files, again, I'm so excited to be here. We are going to discuss what it looks like to build a 6-figure brand the Coleen Otero way. Our agenda today is to go through some brief intros. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. We're going to talk about branding, what it is, and then we're going to go into the 5 steps of building a successful brand. Well, a little bit about me. I am a boy mom of 4. And yes, my oldest is 23, you guys. I have a grown man. The youngest is 11. And I'm excited just to be a mom. Like, it's one of the toughest jobs, you guys, when it comes to motherhood and growing a family and having several businesses. I'm a wife to Tony Otero for 22 years. My hubby is an IT geek. We are like total opposites, and a financial advisor. So he helps with all the financial and tech things, even just getting the slides and all the stuff to work before we got here. I was like, I need help. I am a retired celebrity beauty expert. I did hair and makeup. I grew up just hanging around salons. My mother had no idea how to do my hair growing up. I figured it out, realized I am really darn good at it, and just kept that energy, as they say. I continued doing hair right out of high school and just worked my way up, traveled, was able to be on set and just really work my magic, if you will. I love it. I love to enhance spaces. I know you guys can relate as interior designers. I just love to make things beautiful or enhance it, as they say. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to just chatting with this creative group in our Q&A session. I'm also the author of Brand to Bucks, a book I wrote in 2018 upon my 40th. Writing a book was something that I had no desire to do as a little girl. However, I love to read. And with the process of working with women, it just became different questions I would get all the time. How do you do that? How did you do this? And I just started to journey and write and teach various workshops, and the workshop turned into a book. The curator of CEO Chicks, which is my amazing network, and also the CEO of Your Beauty and Branding Expert, which is my creative agency. All right. In 2016, I started my CEO Chick community. And by the time 2018 rolled around, I retired. That was when I hung up my shears and my comb. It was very difficult. I had to give my clients a 1 year notice that I would be stepping away from that space. And that was just me. Honestly, it was like a real shift in just my career. I just felt like there was something more and I needed to take time to explore what that was. That was when I was taking the journey and really embracing becoming an author, becoming a subject matter expert, and just really diving into helping women with building their brand and what that would look like full time. So, it takes some time to really wrap your mind around shifting the trajectory of your life and career. And so I did that and focused my attention on branding and building the CEO Chick network. And over the last 5 years, I'm honored to say I've been able to serve women and they just value and trust me so much. I've been able to generate 7 figures in income. So let's talk about a few features. I don't even know how I got up here, guys. I honestly, I made the shift, like I said, and just took the time to just really understand how I could serve my community, how I could help women become more successful, how I could share some of the stories that don't necessarily get the highlighted. They don't necessarily get highlighted. Some of the amazing women I get to work with that started their journey with nothing and now they are just impacting the world and building brands that are global. And so I get to share those stories. And so it's afforded me the opportunity to just expand and have these various features. So that's pretty cool. Just figured I would share that with you and inspire you all. This is what we're going to dive in on today, however, is brand to bust. What does it look like to really build a 6-figure brand, right? As a creative, sometimes we can, and I'm going to get into it, but as creatives, we see the big picture. We are like very much the vibe, if you'll let me use that word, and we're setting a mood and we are so about the atmosphere. Branding is just that. It is really creative. And so I'm looking forward to having dialogue with you all here later. But let's talk about what branding is and what my definition is for branding. It is and if you're taking notes, you want to write this down. Branding is not just a logo, right? It is not just the cute picture and the curated outfits. It is not just what else goes that people think about in branding. You guys, if you're typing in the chat or you're writing notes, let's just engage a little bit. What are some of the things you tie into branding? It's aesthetics, right? It's how it looks. But branding is so much more than that. I've heard one definition is branding is what people say about you when you're not in the room, or what they say about your organization when you're not in the room. My definition is branding is the spirit or the essence of an individual or organization. I'll say it one more time. Branding is the spirit or the essence of an organization or an individual, right? It's the thing that is not seen. It's more so the experience that people get, the emotions that are evoked when people engage with you as a designer. It's just that. It's like, what is the mood? What are people thinking when they engage with you? How do you make them feel when they interact with you? You could be the best designer and be able to like create a space that can blow people's minds, but do they like to work with you? What is the journey like? What is the experience like? Will they recommend you to their friends, right? Is your design team an extension of who you are? Do they feel like, as they're walking through this journey of perhaps they had to relocate for a minute and get their home done, redecorated, or even dealing with construction, like what is that process like? There's so much that we can discuss when it comes to defining a successful brand. And so here's my formula that we're going to talk about. It is so simple. But what I will say is where it can become complex is in the execution. Right? We understand, it's one thing to set a goal. It's another thing to come up with a game plan and then to execute that, right? So when developing your brand, I want you to just break it down into these 5 areas. 1, your story. 2, your style, 3, your skill sets, 4, your stuff, and 5, your systems. All right, let's get into it. All right, first one is your story. Your story is highlighting your mission, what your goal is for your brand. Excuse that little typo. What solution do you bring to the market, and understanding what your why is. You know, why did you get into design? You know, did you want to just help people build a space where, especially during the pandemic, right? Oh my goodness, I don't know about you guys, but there was so much work to be done during quarantine because so many people were inside their homes staring at the paint on the walls that has been there for God knows how long, and they were just ready for a shift and ready for a change. And so, like, what is your why as a designer? I want you to think about that. I want you to write it down in your journal, on your notes, as I'm talking to you. And what is the goal of your overall brand? What solutions do you bring as a designer, as a creator, as an artist? What's unique about you, right? I want you to also think about, when cultivating and understanding your story, is who's your avatar? Who is the client that will work with you, that needs what you're offering, and why? Understanding that connection is so key in developing your brand, right? I want you to also take an evaluation, if you will, of your culture. What are some of your core beliefs? What are some of the things that even shape your core beliefs? Have you ever, it's one thing to have integrity. It's another thing to know, why do I have integrity? I'm working on content just like a lot of entrepreneurs. I'm developing content for the internet, right? And one of the things in my content ideation time with my team, and we're sitting down, I wanted to do something about working with friends, right? What is it like to work with a friend? And do friends have to pay? Are friends free, right? And why do I have a belief that I'd rather hire my friend than have this assumption that my friend will not pay for my services? And so we're looking for conversations that will catch our audience. And so we're going to just talk about, should friends pay or not, right? In this piece of content. And in our conversation, we got even deeper as to why I have that belief. And it was because the first time I started to do hair, I was practicing on family members. I was practicing on my mother. And the first time I got it right, she paid me. The first time I did my mother's roller set, roller set the right way, she gave me $25, right? For, as a young girl, 12-year-old, I was like, this is awesome. But it instilled something in me, right? She attached value to my skills. And so anytime I'm looking to work with someone that I know or don't know, immediately my thought is not, do I get a discount because of our relationship? My thought is, I can't wait to be able to pay you and to show you how much I value your skills. And you're someone I love, like, it's a plus, right? Well, that core belief comes from that story. And so when I'm marketing and I'm sharing and I'm talking about, being able to share your pricing and what are some of the things that customers need to know, like, we can have conversations for days when we can get to the core of something. All right. I shared all that just to say that. But you heard that story, right? Well, when you're developing your brand, think about some of the stories, why you are the way that you are, why you do the things that you do. You'd be surprised. It could come from a story growing up. We never had anything. I've always wanted my own room. When I finally got my own room, I designed it this specific way. And ever since then, it's like I'm like this little girl designing my room for the first time every time I work with a client, right? You see how that can just pull you in, and there's this emotional connection when it comes to branding. That is the power of your story. Story creates pictures in the mind of the hearers, and it's something, they make a connection. They'll remember. Listen, people can sometimes forget your name and remember the story that you told, because it gripped their heart. You brought them in. And so I want you to just sit in phase one, when we get off of here, and say, because we're not going to be able to go over all of it and really deep dive, right? But I want you to just sit in your story. I want you to understand your mission, and then think about the person that needs what you have to offer, right? It's like matchmaking. I have a saying that marketing is like flirting. It's like dating. Branding and marketing is like dating. And marketing is like flirting, and branding is the reason that someone will ask you out for a date, right? It's the reason someone will actually take action because they resonate with your brand. Okay, next is your style. Your style deals with your brand DNA. Listen, this is awesome. As designers, it is pretty cool when I meet people in a space and they have a certain creative flow. Someone might lean more towards this abstract feel. Someone else might have a different, just style type altogether. And it's so interesting to be able to say so and so did that room, or that looks like such and such design that, or this person is inspired by a specific designer, right? You kind of start to see when someone is impacted from someone's creative gift or ability. Or it happens in music, you can tell, or in dance. Oh, that person dances like Michael Jackson. I grew up Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, right? So we could see when someone was just impacted by that great creative gift, or the essence of that person, right? I want you to think about your brand personality, right? I want you to break it down. Like, think about your style and say, man, like, how can I put that into words? How can I put it into a personality? Is it more eclectic? Is it luxurious? Is it kind of like shabby and chic? Is it vintage? Is it right? You begin to sit with yourself for some time and sit with your talent and your gift and say, this is the personality behind it, right? Not just necessarily thinking of yourself, but what your design gives off, right? The outcome, the end result. What does it give off? What type of personality is it? Next, I want you to think about the look, the feel. We're tying it all in. That's the actual aesthetic. And then messaging, right? Like, write all these things down. I remember talking to a client, and she was more of a author, speaker. And I said to her, so let's break down your brand and break down, because she's the product, right? And people are buying into her and they want her to come in and light up the room. I'm like, okay, well, what is that experience going to be like? Let's break it down. What do you bring to the space? Who do you relate to? What are some of the people you feel like you resonate with, and why? What is your personality type like? And if we could take, or we break that down for that person. She's the product. And I want you to think about, I don't know, let me grab this, like a physical item. Let's say it's a physical product. For some of you as designers, guess what? You have the opportunity to create other products and services, right? You can, after you design a space, you can actually say, well, you know what? I designed those pillows, myself. And you can have a pillow line. What else? Candle lines. What candles have a certain smell? They give an aroma. They shift the room, the scent in the room. There's so many opportunities when it comes to the design space. But in any event, whether it's a physical product, or you yourself as the product, I want you to think about that and break down the personality of the item. Yes, even lipsticks have personalities, like, the hot red lip, like the Rihanna red. Rihanna had a lip that was out, this Rihanna red. It was in a cool packaging. It looked like a stiletto, and it just had its own personality, right? So put your personality on your products. Put your personality, let it be felt in your services. Let it be felt in the experience that you're creating for your audience. All right. Next is your skills, right? Have you mastered your skill set? What skill sets have you mastered, right? Are you getting any training, any certifications in any area? That is so awesome for you to be able to use in your marketing, to share with your audience that you are constantly developing your skill sets, constantly going and researching. I love seeing designers travel abroad for inspo, or just, we might not all be able to travel abroad, but you get my point, right? Just being able to show, like, I'm committed, right? I'm committed. I'm just such a part of what it is that I do. It's me. Like we are one, you know, and it's just key. Problem solving. What problems do you solve? We talked about that earlier. That will come back up in your skill sets. It is your unique selling proposition, is what we call it in business, your USP. Your skills, the way you do what you do, can be overlooked so easily. Oftentimes, when I'm sitting with clients, that is the number one area I just spend time and I ask tons of questions. And those questions are getting me to the core of who they are, why they do what they do, even down to their language and things that they say, whether it's quirky, whether it's dry humor, whatever it is, it's like understanding themselves, that awareness. Because a lot of times we don't even see it, right? It comes so natural to us that we don't always see it. And it takes someone sitting with you and saying, do you realize that you say this? Like, oh my gosh, that would be such a cute idea for something, you know, and the ideas begin to flow. And so understanding the problem you solve is huge, because you can reverse engineer that into your marketing. You can take that and say, man, what does it look like when a person goes without that issue unresolved, right? What does it look like for that person to not have design in their home? Okay, let me think about it. If I'm a designer, let me for a second put myself in your position. So let's say you're an amazing designer, and I know you are, and someone comes to you and they love your work, they've seen your page, and you get into their space and they're like, you're already hired. You've done such an excellent job with marketing. They love the look and they know they want to work with you. However, you get into their space and then you begin to realize that the design that they love may not be the exact fit for them because of something functional that lacks functionality. So you may come from a different approach, still give them what they want, but you're going to find a way to also solve a functionality issue in their home, right? You're going to build out something that will make it easier for them to enjoy their family at dinner time, or you're going to, and that right there may come so natural to you as a designer that you don't highlight it in your marketing. We see the outcome, but we don't see the problem that you necessarily solve. We love a good before and after, right? We love to see the walls come down and open space concept, right? We love it. We love it all. But okay, oh my gosh, imagine if you began to share the story as to why you designed it this way and what it did for that family. And then what if you can go a step further and get them to share that, you know, to show them in that space and how it was not functional to now not only is it beautiful, but it's functional, right? Again, your skill set, personal development. Are you constantly investing in yourself? I said it before, learning, traveling, resting, of course, is important because you get a lot of ideas. I don't know about you all. When I say I'm going to rest, for some reason, I get a lot more ideas, but resting, engaging with diverse audiences is awesome. Listen, as creatives, and we can kind of get into a funk where we feel like or stuck into a like creative funk, and you want to do something new, or you're looking for maybe new material, or you're looking for new prints or something that could jazz up a space and something that can really go together, and you're tired of this, you know, how would we call it, that, you know how there's usually a trend, right? You kind of like, man, I'm so tired of these houses, they all look alike. Well, you want to bring something new, and so it's like, yeah, go on that journey and bring your audience with you on that creative journey. I think it's so super cool. All right, that's it for skills. Let me see how I'm doing on time. Okay, we're almost there. Next is your stuff. If you're typing in the chat, say, I got to get my stuff together. Yes, stuff.
Yeah, this was the one I was excited to dive into. I'm like, stuff? What's this stuff?
Yes, sis, we have to have our stuff together. Okay, let's talk about the stuff. Your products. And I kind of leaned into it a little bit earlier. It's like, man, we're in business, right? When we're not just creative, but we are business owners and we're looking to be productive and we're looking to make money. So products is awesome. Like sitting with your team, whether that's you and a family member and you're just starting out, or now you have, some help and assistance and other creative minds, coming together and thinking about different products that you can create, when you're coming into these spaces, and you can add it in as a part of your service. So developing products and services around solutions are key. I can't stress it enough. It'd be different for each individual, but to some degree, sometimes it's like, no, in that space, you're going into people's homes, you can look at what are some cool throws. Again, we talked about various prints. What if you found some awesome prints and you were able to make a unique throws that can jazz up a room? Well, now here we have a product that can be added to a service, accessorizing the spaces. Candles, they're just some things that come to mind. Different cool little fixtures that you maybe abstract fixtures or something that you can design. So much when it comes to design as a whole and products that you can add. How about, let's see, I'm putting myself in the designer's hat here. Follow up. How often does someone need to jazz up their space, right? Maybe you can add in some sort of holiday. I'll come in and do something for the holiday when it comes to design. Like, not only will I help you with this remodel, but hey, if during the holidays, I love to just kind of come in and jazz up the space for you. I'm always doing something that is unique and keeping it fresh, and you guys get my drift, come up with something, a way to keep people involved, engaged, and in a long-term relationship with you. That's what it's all about. What about your platforms, right? One of the things I early on as an entrepreneur had to learn was just because you know how to bake the cookies doesn't mean you know how to run the bakery kind of thing. And so getting into that back end piece of your business, stepping outside of the business and working on it, take the design hat off and just kind of start to look at the systems you have, what your platform's doing, your marketing, all those various things, your website, what's the flow like on your site? Is it user friendly? Is it complicated to book a consultation? Social media, do you have links that are just move with ease? Can people easily book a consultation? Can they easily look at your portfolio and your work and book of business? Text services are huge. Text me for whatever. Are you offering free anything? Free downloads, free nuggets, anything that you can do to build that relationship with your followers on social media, whether you're doing paid ads, all of it. Like, you got to take the time to look at your business. That's the stuff that is just not so sexy as creatives. Like, again, I did hair, had a salon. That I was working with a franchise owner at first and had 6, and then went out on my own and did my thing. Then the market crash came. But all in all, with every shift that has happened, because I was before Facebook, then Facebook came on the scene. Look, I had a MySpace page. Okay. Before Facebook came on the scene, it was just constantly mail outs, billboards. I've done it all. Just what I need to do to get into the face of my potential customer. And so you got to constantly look at what's out there, what's trending, what fits your budget, and do your best. Marketing materials, business cards, banners, your apparel. That's a big one now, right? Being able to come up with cool, I design, people like cuss words now, it's marketable now. So back in the day, it would be like, oh, that's a bit taboo. Like, but I design stuff, right? Could walk around with a shirt. Really? What do conversation pieces, t-shirts that you can create. All of that are just really cool stuff in order for you to make it a conversation. be able to, again, appeal to your potential customer. And that leads me to systems. Another thing that is not always sexy for us as creatives: management, the marketing, payment processing, right? Which is why I love what Design Files offers, right? It gives you some of that ease when it comes to the technology. All right. So creating operational systems that support your brand offer. That again, those are those CRMs, like what your website, your online, anything that deals with customer relationship, marketing, your marketing. I talked about that quite a bit. Payment processing, how easy it is to keep that so simple. The invoicing process is so cool. For CEO Chicks, I work with a lot of influencers, and even as sometimes it's just like, man, this was too hard, right? This process was too hard. Can you just invoice me, right? I will get an invoice, and then the invoice has nothing clickable on it for me to pay, and then I'm reaching back out. Well, I'm trying to get money to you, right? Why is this so difficult? Think about that. Think about just your processes, because that can take away from the experience that your customer is having. So you want things to be done with some form of ease. Or I even think about your process as a whole. Notifications, those are super, super necessary. When someone does order something, is there a notification process where they are just aware of where things are? Is it being shipped? Is something on back order? Do we need to look at an alternative? Are you making yourself accessible and just really adjusting and over serving as much as you can? So just be aware of all of those things when you're selecting automation processes in your systems. Just make sure it really helps to keep that communication going and to make it easy for your customer. Success. All of that equates to your success. Let me tell you, success is different for everybody, right? Well, let's have you define what success looks like for 2023, right? Your goal for success could be, I want to book an additional 10 clients a month or 10 clients a quarter. Wherever you are, whatever that benchmark looks like for you, it could be, I want to sell this much pillows. I want to sell this much throws. I want to sell this much artwork. I want to book this much consultations. Whatever it is, be specific. Be specific. And then from there, you create your game plan that I briefly discussed and really assess all of the various things we just previously talked about and come back to do what? Manage it, because success has to be managed. If it's not measurable, that's another thing too. If it's not measurable, it didn't happen. As one that's worked with creatives, that's why the systems are important. That's why the stuff is important, because sometimes we could just be doing life and working with clients and just kind of going along with the flow. And then we need a loan. Like, oh, yes. So I need to see the paperwork and the proof that, your business is doing well and it is healthy. And so those systems are there for your success, to be able to say, yeah, I did this much business. Sometimes it'll surprise you, like, wow, I did that, All right. So manage, constantly assess and reassess your process. Always look for ways to upgrade, update, and improve. Partnerships. This is cool too. The power of collaborations. We're seeing it with so many major brands. You could collaborate as a designer. You could collaborate maybe with someone who designs homes, and you can do the staging, right? That's a popular collaboration. You could collaborate with another designer that has a unique eye, and you guys complement each other. You can collaborate with an artist. There's so much room for collaboration, right? Leadership development. Stay ahead of the curve with both self-development, creative ways to helping your team win. That is awesome, being able to include your team in your process. As you grow as a leader, that's very important that you take the time to work on that skill set, right? Especially depending on what your goals are. Especially depending on how large do you see your brand going? Is it something where eventually you're not in the design seat that much and you're focusing on product and working with a group of designers that now take over that area, who knows, right? Whatever those goals are, it's going to require leadership. And that's where you go into expanding, evolving and expanding and looking for opportunities for growth. And be open to change with your customer. That's important. We are in business to serve. So if you want to learn more, feel free to grab a copy of CEO Chicks, of Brand to Bucks. To start building today. The cool thing about my book is there are areas that you can write inside of it. I know I'm sharing screen right now, but there's a place for the ideation. One of the things I love when I read something, I got to write right away. I got to answer questions right away. And so some of the things I'm sharing today, it's all in here. How can I improve my hiring process after I break down what's required? The 3-part story, breaking down your story. It's all in here and you can check it out. Who's your ideal audience? We break it all down and then put you in a space where you can just meditate on it and write it out. And so it's super cool, super awesome. You guys can follow me on social. You guys got that information. Let's go into Q&A.
Love it. I love how you covered some things that we might not be thinking about, like the roots of what's behind your design style, you know, focusing on the whole client experience, not just the look and feel, although that's important. I love how this was so holistic into basically like every part of your business that would touch, you know, a client or a partner. So yeah, this is going to be a very, very valuable replay, you know, to run through all of these things again. So thank you so much for that. I loved that. I'm going to go ahead and hop into some questions. Let me see. I got to be, well, now, you know, this is my difficult job. Just dive it in. Okay. So one person asked, like, do you feel like clients really care about why you started your company? Like, they feel like it can sound kind of kitschy when they hear designers say, oh, my friend said I had a good sense of color, so I went into it. Like, how do you tell your story? I feel like what this question is getting at is, how do you tell your story in a way that somebody will care?
And that's
not just sounding about you. Like, what's kind of one of your favorite tricks for that?
I think that's the trial and error, right? That's the piece where you begin to really break apart your story and see what part resonates with people the most, honestly, you know, and really getting creative with it and sitting with someone in that marketing space to say, okay, this is it. This is my story. This is how I got into this space. And what parts of it do you think we can kind of build on, you know, and really go from there? I think clients, I don't know if you want to say that they necessarily care, but I think it depends on how you're marketing too. Like, are you educating? When I share that story about people, it's like people are listening. When I talked about like my mom and exchanging money and all that stuff. And when I realized, oh, I could get paid for this, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it just kind of depends on the customer, the room, you know, who you're talking to. All of that plays a part. So it's not so tone deaf.
Yeah. And you can kind of test that, like when you're actually talking with somebody, right? During a client consultation or at a networking event, you can kind of see like what little stories do people actually perk up about, right?
Yeah. And the cool part about storytelling is, you know, that is great for maybe you, and we'll see how it could play a part in the long scheme of things, but it doesn't always have to be your story either that you share. It could be an experience you had in the industry that is like, you know what, this is why I do what I do, right? Mm-hmm. It was what my design did for this family, what it meant for this, you know, this couple who's now all kids are out the house and they're like doing, you know what I mean? Like you just go
that problem solving. That's like back to that problem solving piece.
Yeah. But the story around it, like the person, right? That can really, when you're telling the story, the potential for triggering someone else going through that situation, and that will turn around and say, well, I want that. My kids are leaving for college. Maybe I should, you know, do some changes around the house to Johnny's room. I don't want him to come back, you know. That could be the she shed in works, you know.
Yes, there's the she shed. Yes, exactly. So it's like telling the story that's going to resonate. It could be the story of somebody that you help, not necessarily your personal background.
Yeah.
So another question that we're getting is, what's your favorite CRM?
Oh my goodness. I'll tell you a few that I use right now. For CEO Chicks, we are on Wix, but for my educational platform, we use Thinkific.
Okay.
So we're in the educational space. So again, when we talk about creating products, I have a saying that problem produces products, right? Problems produce products. So it helped me when I was maturing, when I kept feeling like, everyone comes to me with their problems. I started to realize, oh, wait, this is actually, come to me with your problems. Let me see now if I can come up with some solutions. I just stopped looking at it as a negative thing. And it's like, no, problems produce products. And the other saying is that products go places where I cannot. So when I'm able to create a product, it has a potential. People that don't like me could buy my product. That's an awesome thing. It's an awesome thought, So overall, though I forgot the question.
Oh, the CRM thing. I like where you took it, though, because I'm like, it's not just the style you could create for somebody, it's the problem you could solve for them, which as a designer, you can do both. Yeah. So I like where you took it.
The educational space. As a designer, it can come to a place where, you know what, I'm going to educate other designers. And so I'm looking for a place to house, some content, and where I can start a subscription service behind, some content. And so we use Thinkific for that. That's another favorite CRM. I love Trello for organization.
Yeah.
Trello is also pretty cool, right? You can utilize that. So those are a few of my top ones. Thinkific on the CEO Chick side, Trello on my branding client side. I do all my ideation there. I keep notes there. They can share the board with other team members. We can see what's completed, where we are in the process of developing their brand. So those are a few of my favorite. Great question.
Love it. Love it. So how do you find assistants that match your energy and your brand? Is that a teachable thing? I mean, wow, outsourcing and hiring is probably one of the biggest challenges in the world, right? Like, how do you find them?
Yeah, I get that question a lot, especially in CEO Chicks, when we're like, we're going for the bag, girls. We need those coins, and it's like, well, I'm gonna die going for the bag. I'm tired. I need to find a team. I can't do this by myself, right? And so hiring is a conversation we have constantly. And so what it looks like, we started to incorporate personality tests. We incorporated several phases of interview. Like, you would think that we are some major company, when it comes, but I realized that has helped with the longevity of even my team, of having trusted advisors. I created an advisory board, but these are women that I have been working with for years that are crushing it in their area of influence. And I said, hey guys, I need help with hiring. And I'm putting something out in Indeed. I'm putting something out on social, but can you meet with them? And if you like them, can you pass them to Christina? And then Christina, can you pass them to Shelly? So one's a licensed psychiatrist. I'm like, I just need to know, can you ask some of those great questions that you ask? So it really just took me falling on my face a few times to say, okay, let me stop blaming the hiring pool, right? Because apparently companies do it every day. It's me as a leader. Let me take the responsibility. Oops, sorry about that. As a leader, let me take the responsibility and figure out what I need to shift. And so personality test, different understanding myself and what I need in that specific role is also key. What type of personalities complement you? Like, think about people in your life that you just work really well with and why, right?
Good.
And look for those attributes in that next hire. And so that has helped, as well as the series of people doing interviews before it got to me. Trying to think of something else. being willing to really sacrifice and dig deep financially too for the quality of help that you're looking for. Sometimes we short ourselves because we're not investing at the level that we need to for the quality individual that we're looking for.
Yeah. And I like how it's, it's really slowing down too, because going through that long process, it's like really giving the hiring process the time it deserves instead of kind of like rushing to just hire the first person that seems a little nice and proactive, right? Like really take your time with this. So somebody else would love for you to just like dive a little bit further into the power of collaborations and partnerships. Maybe any ideas? You gave us lots of great ideas for interior designers, but anything else that you can mention in terms of who interior designers could collaborate with or partnerships that have really worked well for you, how you approach finding partners, anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, man, that's such a great question because that the collaboration is powerful, right? It's just like it can catapult you, right? Just like in relationships in general, it can either elevate you or it can deflate you. It can bring you higher or it can bring you lower. And so I've had bad collaborations, I've had good collaborations. So now I'm like, okay, wow, I get the difference. I totally understand the difference. Number one, it's mutually beneficial. Oftentimes when you look to collaborate with someone, you want to kind of look for someone that's on that same level that you're on, right? Because initially, if we say I want to collaborate with someone that has like they're further along, like let's be realistic, like this person is not looking for business, apparently they got it going on, but I desire to be where that individual is, that person's not going to look at that relationship as mutually beneficial, right? So that might be a space where you're going to reach out, not for a collaboration. You're going to reach out to say, you know what, man, mentorship might be that conversation. Or do you have any classes? Or do you do any coaching? Or do you have anything to kind of just that I would be willing to invest in? Or can I take you out for lunch and pick your brain? Or what? Just be upfront about that. So that's number one. When it comes to collaboration, look for someone that's in that same space that you're in, at that same level that you're on, and that can complement what you do.
That's a good tip. Yeah, because otherwise people can also get stuck thinking, oh, I'm collaborating, but it's actually not beneficial for them. And they're just helping out the other person a little too much.
Correct. And so that I think that's number one, is looking for that person, again, that just is right at the same level with you and that complements what you offer. And then there's the collaborations maybe outside of the field altogether. And that's why it's so cool when you can like get around other industries, get around other leaders, because you'll be surprised. Like you're in design, let's say, for example, let's just say your design, Diana, and me, I'm out here speaking, teaching, focused on CEO chicks, nothing to do with design at all, but I host events.
Right.
So what if we collaborated and you're like, oh my gosh, I want to design your set. I want to design, let's see, activations are huge for, look at the Skims pop-up. I don't know if you had a chance to see the recent Skims pop-up, but let's do a pop-up and I'll design it for these activations that you do for different chapters. Like that's a collaboration. You are immediately bringing value because I ain't a designer.
Yeah, and you're getting a portfolio piece. Yeah, I love the idea of like portfolio pieces for events and activations. That's a super good idea. Somebody else is asking, when you're working with like an outside, graphic designer or somebody in your team or a freelancer, a graphic designer, copywriter, how do you keep them like on track with your brand voice and style?
That's where that Trello board comes in. Man, work creative to creative. That can be challenging, number one. I find a couple things happen. I can get with a designer, a graphic designer or a creator, and we seem like we're seeing eye to eye, and then the product doesn't reflect what I thought. And then I'm like, okay, I have to over communicate because I thought I did, but it didn't land. And so now we go deeper. Let's look at references of other imagery. Let's look at the typography that I like. Let's look at some things we've done in the past, so on and so forth, to try to merge, my idea through that vessel, through that creative force, like, because it could be difficult. It can be difficult trying to pull it together. So trying another form of communication. I used to think if I just said it, they should get it. Oh, no. Then you find out they don't even learn that way. So what? Like, that person didn't even really hear what I had to say. So I need to put picture to my words. I need to put emotion to my words, the feel I'm going for. For our event in March, my son went to school for graphic design, and I'm a creative. He's a creative, but very different. And I started to understand his style and his way of seeing things. Like, he loves contrast. So he loves to like put something very dark up against something very light. Like, all of his stuff is super black and white, even if he's using color, if you understand what I'm saying. Right? You know what I mean? So I'm learning his design style. And then I'm like also trying to teach him ours. And I'm like, okay, let's merge it together so it's more my brand, not so much yours. And that when, as a designer, all of us as creatives, when we learn to do that, to find that happy place between the client and ourselves, we're going to win.
Yeah. And the more clarity you have, on your style will help.
Yeah.
And I think also sometimes, like, if you're hiring somebody, maybe not your son, you're not going to just let go of your son too easily. But if you're hiring somebody and they're not getting it, sometimes you just have to be like, wow, I have to let that person go.
Yeah, because there's deadlines too, right? So it's like, oh my gosh, that's another thing that can be painful, is that creative process and that creative flow and the deadline. Like, I need you to hit that creative flow and still meet the deadline, right? And so some people kind of struggle with that.
Yeah.
I've had to stop working with some, different creatives that just couldn't meet the deadline. I've had to cut ties.
Yeah, exactly. So when somebody is brainstorming what their brand will look like, feel like, sound like, what should that look like in kind of like the initial stages? And how do they know when they've got it right? Like, if they're going through this process and they're in the style phase, like, what are some ways that people can be decisive about their style?
Yeah, that's a personality thing, where it's sort of like, oh, but I'm just not sure yet, right? I have to help people make decisions. That's my, and sometimes I have to say, listen, I want you to sit with this, but you understand, like, the aesthetic, how can I put it? There are times that I say to people, number one, it's not permanent.
Yeah. Don't stress over it, right? It's not permanent.
Yeah, you're not going to put this out right now and then change it a month later. Let's be clear, right? But your brand will evolve with you, right? And so I use examples of how McDonald's has changed, examples of how Dunkin' Donuts, they recently did a change on just Dunkin', right? So I explain, like, brands go through changes. And over the years, it's become more simplistic. But what really matters is the brand experience. That's what really matters. And then I have to remind them, I got my mama finger. I got the mama finger out to the designers. I'm like, listen, baby girl. You can have a brand and not have a business. Your brand experience is very important. And so while the look, the feel, the aesthetic matters, you know what matters most is the experience that you're going to create for this individual. So let's get to that. Let's get to how you're going to serve, how you're going to show up, the team that's going to be in place. Let's get that taken care of, So that's kind of that's where sometimes I have to give them a pep talk.
Yeah, I love that, because I've seen friends, get stuck in the logo process or the naming process. And it's like, you got to just move on at some point. And I like this concept that, yeah, you're not married to it. And, you know, it is your process is 5 phases. So, you know, don't get so stuck on one and so worried about one that you're not focusing on the others, because it does take all of them. Because like people say, you can't cash in your followers at the bank, you know? Yeah, exactly. So let's see. Another question is, how do you begin the process of designing your own products? I mean,
Ooh.
that's a really interesting one for our audience of interior designers, because I think we can all think of, you know, some really famous like interior designers, you know, they've got their own TV shows, they've got their own product lines. And you can do this at a smaller level without having a contract with HGTV, right? You can do it.
Yeah, that's where most of them started. They didn't start on HGTV, did they?
Right, right. So how does somebody design a product for the first time?
Yeah, it starts out very raw. You know, don't despise small beginnings. Every large thing started small, and I think sometimes we just count ourselves out way too quickly. And so you start raw, you start small, you start with those people in your circle that trust and believe in you. You start with those loyal customers, and you let them know, I'm working on this product. I want your feedback, whatever it may be. I don't know if that's what the question is. It's like, where do you get the heart and the guts to just start, because it's different for everybody depending on what the product is. It could be something that you're going again to travel to look for different manufacturers around the world. It could be something that happens organically and you just begin to open yourself up to the idea at first. Like maybe just from this conversation, someone for the first time is like, you know what, I'm going to open myself up to the idea of a product.
Right.
Let's start there, and then begin to look at your service and your clients and find out what is something constantly coming up amongst all of them that you've solved. Like sometimes it goes over our heads. Like, man,
Yeah.
I'm always doing this. And it could turn out to be something, even a little signature, that just something you do, right?
Yeah.
It's just something you do that can become this product. And so I went to common things like a candle, or I went to the pillows or the throws, because I change my throws all the time. You know what I mean? And I'm always looking for different ways to jazz up my living space. So start there. Just start there. But manufacturing processes, a lot of people will begin to look at where can they find affordable goods. They look for what they call private labeling. So it could be looking up candles that already exist. And some of these manufacturers will allow you to add a specific scent to it, brand it a specific way with the quote you might say all the time. I just randomly put out, I designed on, I designed on my shirt. Like, that could be a candle, like, that makes your client laugh at the end of the day. I don't know, right? But
it totally has to fit, right? Your brand, your style. I like the idea of like solving problems, because it could be, maybe you're really great at finding the exact perfect mirror, for a bathroom. And that's like something that you do all the time, and you come up with your own line of mirrors. So I like, thinking about what are you bringing to the table in a lot of your projects. And then I love also the point about confidence. We're getting a lot of comments about your confidence and how people wish they could just bottle it up and drink it. And I remember a while ago, somebody told me, you get the confidence first and then everything else is figure outable. So for the person that was asking about how do you start your own products, like it really feels like the confidence comes first. Then the research is like so much easier, right?
Yeah.
Everything is like a Google search away once we have this confidence. So to wrap things up, how do we get this level of confidence?
I'm first of all, start with the book. Here
Okay.
we go. And let me tell you why. This book was years in the making for me. And one of the things that happened is, I mentioned earlier, it started out as a workshop. And I was working with this young lady. She was coming out of a divorce and looking for how she and her husband, it was controversial in my city. She was the wife of a politician. And she was in a workshop. I had about 400 ladies in the workshop. And I began to teach these same principles. And what ended up happening is I would keep in touch with her. She came up to me almost in tears because she was at that transition and she didn't have confidence. She was lacking the confidence she needed, wondering, how can I do life without this spouse? You know, what am I going to do now as a single mother? Not only that, through the shame of what happened publicly with her husband. Right. And I sat with her and I said, you know what, I'm going to stay in touch with you and we're going to work on this and meet virtually each and every chapter. This was a workbook at the time, a massive workbook with rings on it, the ring, you know.
Yeah.
And we worked through the process 9 months, 9 months. And I said, oh my goodness. And she said, everything is in here. And what helped her was getting clear. And so out of that came this comment that I make all the time: with clarity comes courage. When you get clear about who you are, you know, and you start to say, you just don't care anymore about what people have to think. Yeah. You are right with standing like toe to toe with your opinions. You know, yeah. You are okay with someone disagreeing with you, because guess what? That's not your avatar. Yeah, if everybody is your client, no one is your client. And so the way you get the confidence is by getting clear about your design, how you design, clear even in your leadership and communication, all of that comes with time and getting clear. That's the number one thing I would say. And that for me, when I went to write this book, I was still doing hair. I'm in transition, you know? So not only I'm like in this weird space where it's like, what do you mean? I feel like I'm shifting away from doing hair. Are people going to receive me as a speaker? Are people going to receive me when it comes to branding? And so I had to get clear. I gave a 1 year notice by faith. A year. Like I was giving myself 12 months to get my stuff together, you know?
The leap.
So it just takes getting clear. And so the book really helps to do that. And that's it, get clear.
Yeah. And give yourself the time, right? It's like schedule that time to go through, you know, those questions. Like a lot of times we're like so focused on like just getting through our day to day. It's like, nope, you got to give yourself the time to get clear. You know, give yourself that time. So somebody just dropped in the link to the book on Amazon. You can search Brand to Bucks or Coleen Otero on Amazon and you will find the book. That's a wrap for today, everybody. Thank you so much. And thank you, Coleen, for giving us such a super specific and thorough branding workshop and giving us all a boost of confidence today. From everybody at Design Files, we really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And if anybody, they can DM me. I check my DMs. So if they have any further questions, they can shoot me a DM there. But I'm excited and let's build. Like, let's just continue to create.
Love it. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good rest of your day. Bye.